I was lucky enough to present the OCEANIC-AF study today on behalf of all of the investigators, our team, our study team, and the patients that participated. Atrial fibrillation, a lot of patients and people have that we take care of by giving them therapies to prevent stroke. Those are antithrombotics or anticoagulants, and what we studied in OCEANIC-AF is one of the novel factor 11 inhibitors called Asundexian. Small molecule oral pill that patients take, and we randomized over 14,000 patients to small molecule 50 milligrams of Asundexian compared to apixaban standard of therapy for stroke prevention. We also measured bleeding and net benefit. Science matters, and one of the things we do is we have to understand that, unfortunately, even though we learn in medical school and we test these products and drugs to understand their pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics, in 78-year-old people with atrial fibrillation, it doesn't always work that way. And so we did this randomized trial to see if it happens. And unfortunately, the DSMB stopped the trial early because Asundexian was inferior to apixaban. Whenever a trial stops early, you learn a lot of things. Sometimes you learn more in your failure than your success. And I think what we're learning here is that even though knowing it's complicated, there's some populations of patients that we might have needed to enroll more of. I'm going to call those patients who hadn't been chronically on a therapy like apixaban because they're naive and it's a better test to see if the new drug's better than the existing therapies. The second thing we learned is you might need to inhibit this pathway completely. This drug was probably doing about 92%. Complete inhibition. There were some signals. In the naive population, it's a lot closer. Bleeding seems to certainly be less. So unfortunately, a little bit of like Goldilocks or Jumanji, like figuring out what's the right dose in the right population. People have asked, whenever a therapy like this fails, is it over? And I said, well, I think it's the beginning of the beginning, and Dr. Gibson said it's the end of the beginning. I think either way, what we were trying to convince is it takes incremental, and sometimes large leaps happen, but it takes incremental work to learn these things. I wish we magically had a way to know every time it's going to work. That's why we do the trials. And I reminded the audience that it took us 50 years to beat warfarin. Even though no one liked to take it, it took us 50 years. The DCRI, with colleagues around the world, we were able to do 2 of those big studies, Rocket and Aristotle, that led to standard of care. So we were really excited to go take the next step, and we will. This is just the first step in learning how to do that. From a research institute, how do we try to be better? Hopefully in press soon, we did a study with Shelby Reed and our operational team called PEARL-AF, which is a patient preference study. Say, how much does a patient care about bleeding versus stroke? How much would we weigh it in anticipation of the results? So we were activating people with the condition, learning from them before the trial even started. And then with Beth Martinez, Linda Lewis, and others in our operational team, John Alexander, John Piccini, myself, some of our statistical colleagues, along with our colleagues at Bayer and around the world with a bunch of other investigators, we did the study. And we were really fortunate to enroll 14,000 people in 8 to 11 months. And likely that taught us about who can come into a study like this and who needs to be in the study like this.